Well, it was 24 hours ago when we were talking about one of the two teams who were 0 and 4, trying to avoid 0 and 5. And what a show Chennai came out with yesterday. Mumbai would have been keeping a close eye on that. They're the other team on 0 and 4. And just 24 hours later, it's their opportunity in Pune to try and put their record straight. And they're up against a team who, well, are a very aggressive team, particularly with their batting. But they've come off a heartbreaking loss in their last game. Whether or not they've been able to put that behind them or not are one of the many factors we'll decide and talk about on Cricbuzz Live. I'm joined by a very similar looking team. A lot of changes or maybe no changes in the sides out there. We're not making too many changes here on Cricbuzz Live. Simon Doull, Harsha Bhogle. Gentlemen, you're not dropped yet.
Thank you. Very nice. Very nice. Nice to have the same combination back. I think it's been a winning combination, so I think we're okay. We're not in anywhere near as much trouble. Although Harsha is in blue, and I would have liked to have seen blue make maybe one or two more changes.
Yeah, we'll just update you. Yeah. Harsha, you can update us for the toss as we start.
No, but before that, since you said that we are not dropped, I want to thank you, and I will say I will continue to follow my processes and execute my plans and hope for the best possible result. Yeah, so Mumbai are chasing again, 23-0 at the toss. Why would you want to have a toss?
I don't know.
Why would you? Yeah.
Makes no sense. But the teams that are batting first and batting well and then bowling well are still winning games. So what is it, 14-8?
Yes.
Yeah,
it's not what it used to be. Yeah, 14-8. There you go. And
not all bad.
Especially in Pune, where we haven't had a lot of dew, it may not be a bad idea for a team that's struggling, especially to go out and maybe get a big score and play with the confidence of the big score behind you, rather than a team like Punjab, which just goes boom, 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 boom. They come off, they might make 180, and you're suddenly thinking, oh my God, who's going to get those? So I actually thought they might they might win the toss and bat, but they're happy to chase.
Probably in an instance like this, Dooley, I know we are very often, particularly in Test cricket, we talk about a good toss to lose. And it's probably one of those mornings where you see a little bit of movement, but if you decide to bowl first, your bowlers are under pressure, etc. But here, like Chennai, this might have been a good toss for Rohit Sharma to lose.
Yeah, it might have been. And it's probably not a bad one for Mayank Agarwal to lose as well. He's probably one of the concerns from a Punjab point of view. He's been devoid of runs. He needs an innings. He needs an innings just to sort of get his team underway or off to a good start, but also for himself, just to prove that he's got it, and then he can lead this team and he can put a good score on the board without his old mate KL at the other end. So I think he's desperately keen for a score. So it might not be a bad thing for him as well, just to go out there and put runs on the board and maybe just relax a little bit.
Yeah, in fact, there's one big player on both sides. We will, of course, talk about them as we go on. A quick reminder once again, Mumbai have won the toss. A little bit of audio issues there. They couldn't hear each other. It's very difficult. Sometimes in Gary Morrison speaking, no one can hear anything in the stadium. It's not just about the sound.
Even if you can hear, you don't always know. Even if you can hear, you don't always know. I tell you, these guys from New Zealand.
Be careful.
I know. Danny's Aussie now. Danny's Aussie now. He lives in Sydney. You guys have got rid of him, Dooley.
Yeah,
Dooley's not Kiwi either. When does he live in New Zealand?
I don't anymore. So I can't really talk about it either now.
Fair enough. But just in terms of the lineups, let's talk about the Punjab team first. This is the final 11 as far as Punjab are concerned. And let's have a quick look at that. This is where it is. And which means if we have no little white strips on it, they are unchanged. And Harsha, they had no real reason to change. Mayank Agarwal may be a concern. He's captain, just needs to get himself sorted. But we didn't really see any areas that they needed to change. It was just that last match was an anomaly in a sense.
And they're going to continue playing that way. The fact that they've kept Odean Smith is not just a show of faith in Odean Smith, but as we talked about last night, it is an affirmation of the kind of cricket that they're going to play. They're just going to keep going at it. And on the principle that if we score one run more than the opposition, that we are more likely to win. I know a little bit about the manner in which they play their cricket. They're happy to lose some games, but they think that this approach will win them more games than they will lose. I think they work on the principle that that in any case, even the best sides only win 65% of their games. So if we win 65% of our games, that's going to take us through. Just about. You'll probably win 8 out of 14, around that much. So you need to win 70% of your games. So that is going to be their approach. And I'd be interested in seeing, actually, if you put that team up, I don't know if Odean Smith is going to give you 4 overs. They'll need some bowling from Liam Livingstone, because they definitely are not leaving Odean Smith for the end. So what will they do? Maybe keep Vaibhav Arora back. They'll bowl Vaibhav up, keep Arshdeep back.
Arshdeep and Rabada need to be bowling those last 3, at least 3 of the last 4, I think, don't they? And they've just got to get a couple out of Liam Livingstone. As soon as a wicket falls, if they can get a wicket early on, I'd get Odean Smith into the attack, just try and give him a little bit of confidence. If they can pick a wicket up early with Rabada or Arshdeep or whoever, they look too early on. But if they can get one early, then bring Odean straight into the mixer. That's what captaincy is all about in this format of the game as well. I know that not every player will come out and just work his way into an innings. Some will still go hard at them, but it just gives him his best opportunity, I think, to get rid of what happened in the last game and maybe look forward to what's to come tonight.
But yeah, obviously it's a show of confidence, something we've associated with someone like a Kuldeep Yadav, of course, the now famous quote from Ricky Ponting that said you're playing all 14 games. Not sure Odean Smith has been quite told that, but the fact that he's coming in after a fairly forgettable game, particularly, him bowling that final over and all that happened in that, it's a show of confidence. For Mumbai, well, it was all about getting the right 11. We were expecting 2. We've ended up getting 1. Actually, minimum of 2. We've got that one change. Taimal Mills, who didn't really deserve to be dropped in the first place, Harsha, has now found his way back in instead of Ramandeep. And now they have 5 full-fledged bowlers plus Pollard plus Brevis.
And 6 batsmen. Anybody who bats 7. So I just wonder if that could lead to a little amount of conservatism in their batting. Because if you notice, Rohit Sharma has also said that we need our top order to bat deep. So if he wants the top order to bat deep, I just wonder if that will lead to a slightly more conservative approach, because Pollard is 6. Pollard hasn't played a big innings yet. He got 2 top edges for 6 in that 20, the last time he played. So and Unadkat is batting 7. So I just wonder if they might go a little more conservative, in completely unlike Punjab. Punjab's strategy is boom, boom, boom. I think Mumbai's strategy is hold, boom.
Yeah, and Surya Kumar is probably the exception in that lineup. No matter what situation he walks into, he'll play a Punjab type game. That's his own game. But yeah, I mean, this clarity of approach from Punjab is what we've already talked about.
I wonder, Dooley, if that explains why Ishan Kishan has been batting the way he has last couple of games. Because I thought his role all along was to go and impose himself right at the top. But his strike rate's dropped in the last couple of games. And I wonder if the plan there is let's make a cautious approach and keep wickets.
Yeah, and it's a strange plan, though, Harsh. I mean, I know that that they want to have that plan so that maybe Pollard can play very freely at the back end as well. But Corin Pollard is a good enough batsman. It's just that he hasn't obviously had a score yet, and he hasn't been in the best of form throughout even the international series. But he's still capable of playing an innings. I still don't get. We're 5 games into the tournament now, 6 games into the tournament for some teams, and if you're still only playing 3 overseas players, what you're telling me is that is it an Unadkat or any of these guys that are playing are a better player, so they would bolt into a West Indies T20 side, and Fabian Allen wouldn't. That's what you're telling me. It just does. It makes no sense. I do not understand their strategy whatsoever. It baffles me. And I know, maybe they're looking at the surface and saying, well, it's slightly grassy. Maybe Fabian Allen doesn't play a part. But if you're only asking someone to bowl you a couple of overs and you get an over or 2 out of Brevis or an over out of Pollard, then it's not a problem. As I say, he's a gun in the field. He'll win you a game with the bat. He's capable of getting 25 of 6 or 7 balls with the bat. And you want that. I would want that little bit of, and I'm not calling it security. I just think you want a better player at number 7. You want a guy who can win you a game, and they just don't seem to have done that again. So you don't want to be playing this. Every team, I mean, who is playing conservatively? Find me a team in this competition that is actually playing conservatively. There's 2 or 3. Most of the sides in this competition are now going. They are saying that we need to go. We need to get 180, 190, 200 if we're going to win games. We can still win with 165, 170, but our target is 180, 190, 200. And those numbers that we just saw from Punjab, only the Gujarat game, wasn't it, where they were down around about 8, I think it was, in that power play. Every other time you look at them, 10.5, 10.3, 12 in that power play. It's just, yes, they lose their way a little bit at the back end, but they've already got the numbers on the board in game 1, 3, and 4. Game 2, a bit of an aberration, but you will get that when you continue to go hard.
Here's an interesting thing, though, for both of you actually to think about. Should you necessarily play 20 overs, or if your bang approach gets you where you need to be in 18 overs, it's okay to get bowled out in 18?
Yeah. It's an interesting one, and I don't disagree with it. I don't disagree with it. It's the same old theory of, in 50 over cricket, you have to bat your 50 overs. No, you don't. No, you don't. Don't be worried about having to bat your 50 overs. That's the mistake that too many of these teams make. I think that make a World Cup, the associate nations, when they make a tournament, they feel, I've got to bat our 20 overs or we've got to bat our 50 overs. Absolute rubbish. You don't. You've just got to put as many runs on the board as you can. And if you can get as many runs as you can in 39 overs or 42 overs, so be it. If you can get as many as you can in 18 overs, so be it.
Well, it's the exact same thing that Owen Morgan said in 2015 after their World Cup. Well, not an absolute disaster, but disaster enough it was. And then that's when they changed their approach. And this very thing is what Owen Morgan said. He said, we are okay to be bowled out in 44 overs, provided we have 330 on the board by then. It doesn't matter. So,
but it requires a brave captain, though, because there will be days when you will be 60 for 5, 60 for 6. There will be days. And you've got to live with the fact that you will have days like those. And that's why I'm very curious to see how they bat. They're going out and they're batting first. The Bumrah, Timal Mills, they'll probably go after Unadkat, Basil Thampi. But the top order hasn't given them that many runs. The big runs thereafter have come largely from Liam Livingstone. And now they'll expect from Bairstow, Jitesh Sharma goes and plays little innings like those. But Shikhar Dhawan has had 20s, 30s. Mayank Agarwal got that first score, hasn't got after that. So it'll be interesting to see, in spite of that, whether they keep going or whether they say, okay, first 3-4 overs, our openers get our eye in, and then we go. Because if you look down that list, actually, Odin Smith has finished once. Liam Livingstone's got 3 scores. And there you are. Shah Rukh Khan hasn't had a big score yet. Who?
Rabada's helped them out once.
Rabada's helped them out once, correct?
Yeah, so you're right. There's not a lot there, and I guess when you looked at those opening numbers, the only thing that stood out for me from the top order numbers was that the strike rate of the Punjab side was way higher than the strike rate of the Mumbai side. I think Punjab was at 142, Mumbai was at 120 something at the top, even though they'd scored less runs and had no 50s up the top. It was their strike rate. When you look at those numbers, it tells you that Punjab are going hard, but they're getting out. Because there's no half centuries. Mumbai are being more conservative with those 305 runs in the top 3 and a couple of half centuries, but the strike rate is 123. So, what's the best way? Nobody really knows, but the fact is that Punjab have got a couple of wins on the board and Mumbai don't.
Interesting, Simon, that question that you posed earlier in terms of are there any teams going conservatively? Had you asked yesterday at about 10 past 8 or up to 10 past 8, I would probably said Chennai, but scrap that for now.
Exactly. It seems to be the way that teams are going, and it makes for a great competition, doesn't it? It's we've got sides getting 50, 60, but we've got sides being 3 down, and we've seen it regularly in this tournament so far, 2 and 3 down inside that power play. And it used to be you get 3 down, you can't win. Well, we've seen teams do that. We've seen teams win after being 3 down the power play because they've just gone so hard.
But that one pertinent question that Harsha asked, I think it's on a lot of your minds. And I suspect when we look through all the questions that we had in our bank for today's show on hashtag Ask Cricbuzz Live, Ishan Kishan would have been right up there. And I'm not surprised that that's the one we've shortlisted. Gautam Shiv asked something very similar to what Harsha posed a few moments ago. He's had a strange season, and it's not a bad way to describe it. In the first 2 games, he was playing with freedom. In the next 2 games, he's looked like a shell of himself. What has caused this sudden change in approach? Have we sort of answered it, or can we go a little more deep into it, Harsha?
Actually, even in the first two games, let's look at the numbers. I think he got a big score in the first game, but I think he accumulated in that innings. I don't think he got off to a huge start. He finished with a strike rate of 148, but I don't think he got off to the kind of start you want from Ishan Kishan. And I think he might be tested today, actually, because one of the things that people like to do to him is go hard and bowl short and quick at him. And you've got Odin Smith who might do that, but you've got Rabada up front who could go hard at him. But I think even that 145 in first matches, did he get an 80 in the first game? I think in that first game, he accelerated as he went along. He's not sort of gone off like Ishan Kishan you expect him to. So
you can't have two players like that, though, Harsh, can you? You can't have Rohit and him doing the same thing.
No,
one of them has to take that mantle on. And I don't even mind if Rohit's not in the best of form. I actually would prefer that he was the one that went after the bowling. And if Ishan Kishan is the guy that's going to try and get 60, 70 and go to strike rate of 120 at the start and then sort of increase his strike rate as his innings goes on, I don't have a problem with that. But Rohit Sharma needs to take the mantle on a little bit more then. And see what he can do as the skipper and also as the guy that's slightly out of form. Because when you're out of form, you're just eating up deliveries early on. So you don't want to be that guy. This is not a game where you bat yourself back into form. You've got to basically hit yourself back into form. And form is so game by game dependent as well in 2020 cricket. I mean, you can't be saying, it's not like a test match where you get long innings and you can say, well, he's going into this test match in great form. I mean, this is just so up and down, this game. You can get a good ball, you can get run out, you can get a bad decision. Things can happen. So it's just so up and down. I'd rather see Rohit Sharma do the really hard graft at the start and really take on the bowlers.
And I can see what Dooley is saying, because I think that's what he did in the last game. He had 26 of 15 in the last game, and he went for it early. Ishan Kishan was 26 of 28.
Yeah.
Even if one is 26 of 15, the other cannot be 26 of 28 in this tournament. If you're 26 of 28, you've got to finish with 50 of 38, 37, 38 by the time you come to the end.
Yeah, there's a little quote that has been doing the rounds. I mean, everyone likes to try and find these little comparisons, and this one's it's a bit of fun, but it's also very pertinent. Among 15 batters to have batted at least 30 times in the top three since 2019 in this tournament, only 2 average less than 30, and among those 15 batsmen, 5 strike at less than 130 per 100 balls. Only 1 falls in both categories. Rohit Sharma.
Rohit Sharma, yeah.
I would hypnotize him. I would hypnotize him and tell him he's playing for India. Don't worry, you're not playing for Mumbai Indians. You're playing for India.
Just be the Rohit Sharma.
Look at his numbers for India. Yeah.
I know they're crazy. They're crazy good, and I'm not sure why. I don't understand how there could possibly be more pressure for Mumbai Indians than there is for India. It doesn't. It can't be. It doesn't make sense. So I'm just not sure why. Whether he's just so worried about the batting depth, whether he's so worried about the form of a couple of players below him, whether he's really worried about a youngster at 3 or, it's just I don't know. There must be some other stuff going through his mind at the moment.
Yeah, we've had a few people. I think someone tried to hypnotize Shikhar Dhawan into telling him that it's a multi-nation tournament every time he plays for India. And whether or not it worked or not, certainly the numbers were starkly different from bilateral series versus a multi-nation tournament. But if Rohit Sharma can start producing that, interestingly, both captains here. In fact, I was looking down the list, Harsha. Many of the captains really haven't, other than maybe a Hardik Pandya, haven't really played a captain's knock or with the ball really.
Even Hardik, look at his strike rate. Hardik's batting at 4, and so he's no longer that 150 plus strike rate number 6. He's batting at number 4. He's scoring at 115s, 120s. The other day, he made 50 or 42 balls. So his strike rate is down too. Rishabh Pant has had a couple of innings, but I don't think we've seen the Rishabh Pant just yet.
Kane Williamson hasn't taken off.
Agarwal. Yeah, though I thought he played an innings very peculiar to, very typical of him and the circumstances the last game. Okay, Jadeja hasn't. Faf has had
one really good innings to start with.
Good innings for
Mayank Agarwal needs 1.
No, he hasn't.
Shreyas?
Sanju played 1.
Yeah.
And Shreyas, yeah.
Okay.
Shreyas has been steady at best.
Yeah. Gautam, don't pick captains in your fantasy league team. I know you're constantly changing. Have you got captains in your fantasy league team?
Oh dear. Today I've got a slight little whiff of feeling about Rohit Sharma. So
He's in your team.
I'll give Mayank Agarwal one more game, but Rohit Sharma for sure to start with. But I'm not giving anything more away.
He's in your team.
Okay.
It can't get as bad as yesterday. That's all I can say. It can't get as bad as yesterday. The top 6 scorer is not in my team, but let's talk about someone else who typically, whether fantasy or reality, Harsha, would be in your team every single time, and yet he's not set the stage on fire. Jasprit Bumrah. First game, bad game, came back really strongly, hasn't taken a wicket since.
Julie, you want to take that one? What's the scene with Bumrah?
Yeah, it's an interesting one with Bumrah, isn't it? I wonder whether he's feeling the enormous amount of pressure as well on having to perform for this team. He's just the lead man, isn't he? It was a brilliant performance in that second game. He's not been used in the same fashion time and time again. And I know that it's not always the case in T20 cricket. You must be ready to bowl whenever you are asked to bowl by the skipper. I really want to see him have at least one over with the brand new ball every game. Whether it's the first over or not, you've got to set the tone. Mumbai Indians need, much like I talked about Rohit Sharma at the top of the order, taking the mantle, taking on the attack and leading, being the captain. Just take it to them. I want Bumrah to bowl the first over. I just want to give him that brand new ball. He swings it. He causes trouble. Very rarely in the first over of an innings does Jasprit Bumrah go for runs. I'd like to find the amount of times where he's gone for more than 7 runs, because it would not be very many. And he has the ability to cause trouble for any batsman in the world with that pace, that bounce, a brand new ball that swings a little bit. So why he doesn't bowl at least one, or it's not even at least one of the first 2. He must bowl the first over and set the tone. When you're on a bad run, you want to set the tone with your best players. Rohit, go out there, take it on. Bumrah, take the new ball and take it on. And that's what I want to see. So I just don't know that he's been used absolutely perfectly. He's always going to bowl 2 at the death, but I want him to bowl the first over of the innings in every game.
Having one Bumrah in your side is like saying, I have just one fielder in the slip, and I want that one fielder in the slip to be everywhere. So I don't want him a traditional first slip where most catches come, but I'll have him a third. I might end up missing one fine to my left. I might have missing one square to my right, but I want that one slip fielder to be everywhere. I think they're trying to take 4 of Bumrah's overs and have them everywhere. And as a result, they're not getting him at the top. I've got one more theory though. Trent Boult. Trent Boult was doing so well with the new ball that he was allowing Bumrah to play to his strengths. Before that, they had Maliga. Briefly, since we're talking about Kiwis and being kind to them, very kind to them today, even someone like a Mitch McClenaghan would come in and bowl those hard overs in between. Yeah, he got wickets. And so Bumrah could be somebody else. Today, they're just playing out Bumrah, knowing there isn't really a lot. And that is why I think if Timal Mills can get the ball to swing up front and pick a wicket or 2, Bumrah will also become different.
Yeah, and since you mentioned Boult, Harsha, you obviously talked about Boult when he was wearing the blue jersey, but we saw what happened with Boult the other night. Right up front, and that also brings us back to the discussion we had earlier. We didn't mention one captain, KL Rahul, 2 first ball ducks.
Yeah.
There you go.
True. I mean, that was an absolute ripper though, wasn't it? I mean, that first ball the other night was just one of the best deliveries around the wicket. I mean, the swing, the angle. I loved watching it on the Hawkeye, the replay. The shape of the ball back through, and you sort of almost the look of surprise on Trent Boult's face that it worked, and the look of surprise on KL's face that he completely missed one that swung an absolute mile. It was just a dream start.
I'll tell you who I'm looking forward to seeing the most. I hope he's in your team. Is Liam Livingstone.
Well, that cancels out. He's in everyone's team and everyone's captain. Doesn't matter.
Because I think he's finally found himself. He's hitting ridiculous sixes. I mean, I think the other day he mishit a 95-meter 6, but he is so typical. Liam Livingstone is Punjab Kings in a nutshell. He's just going for it. And my gut feel, I mean, suppose he comes in at 10 for 2. Suppose you could have one of those days. He comes in at 10 for 2. My gut feel is he'll continue batting like that. And he plays the most audacious shots. It's been something else to watch Livingstone.
He did exactly that the previous time, because he got a few overs in the power play, which actually got him going, because they were 10 for 2 probably. They'd lost Mayank Agarwal. I'm not sure if they'd lost Shikhar or Bhanuka Rajapaksa, possibly the day he got run out.
run out.
Yeah.
I think it was a run out day. And we were doing that game at Brabham, I think, wasn't it?
Yes.
And Livingston got 4 overs of power play, and that's it. He springboard start, and then he was able to capitalize after that. The other interesting matchup we always love to see every single time two teams walk out there. Someone who used to play for franchise A, now playing for franchise B. And the one we're going to pick out of the hat today is Rahul Chahar. He was such an integral part of Mumbai, almost their go-to bowler. There was Bumrah, there was Bolt. And just in case they hadn't done enough damage, Rahul Chahar would be the man, Harsha.
And yet they left him out of the final, didn't they, in 2020? They played Jayant Yadav in that final because they had a couple of left-handers in the Delhi side. But he was very good through those middle overs. And it was that period, 1920, when he broke his way into the national side and people started saying you replace the L with an R and you've got a better bowler, that he's quicker through the air than Chahal is. But I think he hit a plateau, but this year he's bowling really well. And I think the matchup to look forward to is Chahar versus Pollard. Because Pollard's had that little thing against wrist spin, but he can also, if you get into his arc, hit you out of the ground. So that is the one matchup I'm looking to see, Chahar versus Pollard. But he's been really good for them. And 7 wickets at an economy of 6.3 is fantastic.
What about the wrist spinners? The wrist spinners have been flying, haven't they? What have we got? Chahar, Chahal, Kuldeep, Hasaranga. They're all in the top 6, 7 of the wicket takers in the tournament as well. So it's been good fun.
Yeah, add Ravi Bishnoi to the mix, not possibly in that list yet, but also making a name for himself. I was just wondering, Dooley, Pollard's the kind of guy who, if he's up against a bowler, would maybe say a few words to him, particularly if he shared a dressing room. I'm not sure if he'll say anything to Rahul Chahar, knowing his own, lack of form against wrist spin.
Yeah, exactly. At the moment, I think he just wants to see his bat do the talking. He's still got the ability. We're seeing, we have seen that. We're seeing glimpses of it. He's still got it, and I think bowlers are still wary of him. But at the moment, he's just struggling to read the wrist spin. So as soon as he walks out the bat, you will see teams, if they've got a wrist spinner, the wrist spinner will be straight on, and then he feels like he's under pressure, because he knows the reputation and he knows the numbers don't stack up in his favour. So, that's the hard thing for him to overcome at the moment.
Yeah, and sometimes captains will even hold back 1, maybe 2 overs of wrist spin in case Pollard hasn't yet come out to bat, and bowl him even in the 15th or 16th over when you wouldn't normally bowl a wrist spinner. We'll see if circumstances allow that today. For now, we can just remind all of you that it's Punjab who are batting first. Mumbai have won the toss. We still don't have a captain in this tournament who's won the toss and decided to bat first. For now, we'll continue with our unusual facts, trivia, fun. Joy Bhattacharya, always in charge. Joy factor question for the day. How do we classify this one? Are we going to get it in 5 seconds or aren't we? Who's the only cricketer to have opened the innings and been the last person to be dismissed twice in the same test? Many, many, many have done it once, but twice in the same test. Why do I think it's happened very recently? Something's jogging in my memory, but it's not coming to me at all. It's not coming to me. Sometimes there's a connection to the game that's happening, to the date. Maybe if you watch more of Retro Reels, you'll get a hang of what Joy is all about. And start watching more of that. Subscribe to Cricbuzz Plus. Then come to our Joy Factor questions, and you could be getting on that list of answering that. Well, that's as far as that is concerned. Joy doesn't have any say in this next one. The next question I'm going to ask. Punjab, 20 overs. They only have one approach. How big is that approach going to take them?
187.
187. Oh dear. I said oh dear, putting myself in Mumbai shoes. Just by the way, Dooley, you haven't got your wish. Basil Sampi first over.
I see that. I bought the herb on.
I'm going 173. I think they might lose some wickets and go boom, boom, 173.
173. Okay, 173. Why not go even lower? It's 05 is not happening, guys. 05 is not.
What you want? Where is this bright, colorful Gautam gone? I thought you were saying 212 or something.
No. Just because colorful doesn't have to be a high score. Colorful can also be suggesting that we're going to have lots of wickets. They're going to, of course, go hard. But that 60 for 5 that you mentioned when referring to Owen Morgan's England, that could also happen to Mayank Agarwal's Punjab. And I suspect that today It's going to be 1-4. Mumbai are going to get one back, which means they won't chase too much. It'll be 157.
But is it 2 4s in the first 3 balls?
I'm sticking to it. I'm not taking any advantage of that. I'm sticking to it. If it was 0 for 2 and I took advantage, that would be unfair. Couple of boundaries. Basil Thampi first over. We've got a wide range as far as our scores are concerned. 10th over, we'll have a good idea of who's getting even close to it. That's Cricbuzz Combox. For now on Cricbuzz Live, the team that continues without any captaincy changes, Simon Doull, Harsha Bhogle and myself on Cricbuzz Live.